the north and central coast of British Columbia, where the Pacific Ocean meets the rainforest. Over thousands of years, this rich landscape has shaped the vibrant cultures of many different coastal First Nations. Today, these nations still inhabit and take care of their ancestral territories.
There's still people here. There's still people that come from this land. They care about what's happening.
We've been guardians of these territories since time immemorial, and that's not going to go away.
It's land, it's the animals, it's the birds, it's everything. It's who we are.
The threats are numerous, and what we need to protect are numerous. We just can't depend on anybody else to manage and look after the resource. We're the ones that are going to be able to do that.
We are the stewards of the land and the sea, and we're also protectors of our culture and our traditional values.
The north and central coast is one of the world's most biologically productive and unique ecosystems, home to grizzly bears, runs of salmon, an incredibly rich marine environment, and the largest tract of intact temperate rainforest remaining on Earth. This is the Great Bear Rainforest. Through the creation of land use agreements between First Nations and the provincial government, over 1/3 of this vast region has been set aside in protected areas. However, there are many factors that continue to threaten the coast. Poaching, illegal fishing practices, trophy hunting, high-impact tourism, climate change, and overharvesting all pose risks to both the natural and cultural resources that First Nations depend on for their food, livelihood, and culture. The isolated nature of this large area, which encompasses thousands of square kilometers, makes monitoring these threats a challenge. With limited government resources, enforcement staff do not patrol the area regularly, making it difficult to ensure that rules and regulations are being followed. The Coastal Guardian Watchmen Network has been established to help First Nations protect these resources. This network is made up of local men and women from various First Nations who patrol, monitor, and protect the land and sea within their own territories. Working together under the banner of the Coastal Guardian Watchmen Network, each First Nation community has their own monitoring program. First Nations up and down the coast hold a common vision: to monitor ecosystem health, to ensure that rules and regulations are followed, and to protect their resources by working together to create a united presence.
We want to be able to manage and take care of our own resources, something that we've done in the past, and we've kind of stepped aside from that. Now we've had a new resurgence with this Guardian Watchman program to start looking after the resources and start, taking care of what we used to.
We live there, we breathe the air, we drink the water, we eat the fish, we eat the crabs. Who better knows about a creek or a stream than the person that grew up on it, ran around as a small kid, or went out with their father or their grandfather.
Basically, we need a presence on the water. We need to have New Haul presence out in the rivers, out in the waters, to assess what's there. Also, with having our own monitors out there, you're going to have community members doing it, right? So they obviously live in the community, they know the area, and they want to be there for their whole life.
It's part of our culture that our history be handed down from generation to generation. From my point of view, we're the original scientists, we're the original biologists, we're original foresters, original fishers.
So this here is a petroglyph, and this is very important to the Kidisu Nation. You can see the head there, and then his hand coming down and the rest of the body here. We have over 100 cultural sites in the territory. And we're starting to see more and more of our pieces go missing. In particular, there's one rock here that people always talked about, and the whole rock was carved to look like a frog, and someone just stopped in here on their boat and walked away with it. So we're starting to see increasing use in our territory now. We're starting to see more and more boats and recreational hunting. You know, there's people that are going to our other cultural sites, like this one site, people have carved the names in the poles, and you know, that the elders didn't really like that.
One of the creeks that we have here is actually what we call a nursery for spirit bears. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boats in view when they're anchored here. You know, we have to let them know, look, this is no hunting zone. You know, once in a while we'll come into this place and people might think it's a good place to camp, so we have to tell them they have to leave. And I just have to keep to the promise that we made to the land and the bears that we don't want to ruin what this river is producing.
There are so many players coming through. There have been a lot of instances where we've had to intervene. We've had suspected abalone poachers. We've had commercial salmon fishers fishing in closed areas and at closed times. It's really important that we're out here to be the eyes and ears of our nation, to see what's going on and to see the extent of the decline of the salmon stocks on the Central Coast.
Logging is a major impact because it not only disturbs the land, but it can also disturb the water columns that were within that territory. Most of them are encroaching pretty close to salmon systems, so you've got to be able to monitor that. The other one is a lot of the medicinal plants that we have. We want to preserve that because that's a tradition that's actually coming back. So it's very valuable to maintain and preserve what we have there, because if we don't, what are we going to have for our children?
Those activities on those waters and lands impact on our social ceremonial foods, and that's our basic right for feeding ourselves. That's where our food comes from.
We do assessment processes, we do the enforcement capacity. The assessment work is for stock assessment to help further management plans.
We do patrols out here during commercial fishery. We patrol our own fisheries. We deal a lot with environmental assessments, doing marine surveys, and just monitoring other vessels and making sure they're, okay, you're doing what you said you were going to do, you're not doing anything illegal. And some of our major things we find is poaching, illegal hunting, and try and report that.
So you think they were up this way? We do whale surveys for DFO and send them all the information, where we seen it, the time we seen it, and how many, so that they'll have an idea if the numbers are increasing or decreasing, what the whales are doing, what's used in the area, and why. You know, certain things use the area at different times, so we want to catalog all of that so that we'll be able to say, okay, this was here before, and why isn't it here now?
When you look at it from a First Nations perspective, everything ties together in some way, shape, or form, right from the phytoplankton that feeds all the way up the food chain.
So it's not just a case of protection in the way we think of protection, but it's actually promoting and continuing our intangible parts of our culture.
The Coastal Guardian Watchmen Network hosts conferences, gatherings, and other events where First Nations come together to support one another's work, share experiences, and unite with a strong voice.
If we don't know what's happening in other territories that could affect us, we can't do anything about it. We're able to help one another and to see if there's a way that we can improve. It brings everybody together. We're all considered one.
Let's put all the politics aside. Let's take away all the imaginary boundaries and let's just put the resource first.
You have to have an understanding that none of us are going to go away, so we have to have that common ground. We have a law that's in place that you respect the lands and the waters because they're the ones that sustain us as a people. You know, be thankful that they're there. We thank them every day, you know, for the resources that we have in our hands that sustain us.
First Nations have always been the guardians and watchmen of their lands and waters. Today, they're working together through the Coastal Guardian Watchman Network to ensure the health of their territories for generations to come. Please support the nations of BC's North and Central Coast as they take their rightful place as the eyes and ears of the Great Bear Rainforest, working together as Guardian Watchmen.